Ladies and gentlemen,
And we are,
welcome back to the True Life Podcast. I hope everybody's having a beautiful day. I hope the sun is shining. I hope the birds are singing. I hope the wind is at your back. I got an incredible guest for everybody today. I want to welcome everybody to an incredible individual, Nuwan Shilpa, the seeker of sublime visions. From the lush landscapes of Sri Lanka emerges a visionary artist whose canvas becomes a portal to the unseen. With each brushstroke, he dances on the edge of reality and dream, capturing the intricate beauty that lies hidden within matter and mind. His work is more than art, it's a revelation born from the depths of psychedelic and visionary states of consciousness. Nuwan, thanks for being here today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's super great to be on the True Life podcast. And yeah, lost for words, but let's get into it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for those just
Yeah.
tuning in right now, a lot of people know that I've been talking to some incredible artists about psychedelic artwork, and I met Nuwan on X in an incredible artist community, and we've seen some of his artwork on some of the pages that I've had. Um, Maybe we could talk a little bit about Nuwan about how you got started in art, man.
Oh,
How
yeah.
did your interest in art come
Okay.
about?
Oh, yeah. This is going to be a long conversation. I feel I feel like, but yeah. So let me get started. So I think let's see, where should I start? So I guess like every other kid, like I used to draw when I was small and all that, like everyone does, it's inescapable. And then this is during my here in Sri Lanka, we have this exam systems. So it's called the O levels and the A levels. That's kind of like uh, semi middle school to high school graduation, the equivalent of it. Uh, So during that time, I did art at school, but so my basic path in life was go to school, get a job, do whatever, that was the whole path. And I would say when I was probably like 18, 19, I might not have the numbers correctly, but it was the time when I started to, experiment with psychedelics. That's how it all started. I mean, it started with, you know, uh, the whole creative journey, I think, started with me hanging out with the sort of rock and roll crowd, you know. And shout out to a band from Sri Lanka. Okay, it's mirrored, but it's called the Mass Damnation, one of my favorite bands. So, and good friends as well. So, so the rock and roll community and seeing what they are doing and the whole creative movement, and from that, just hanging around with creative people. That's how it all started. And then I'd say I had my first sort of psychedelic trip, just acid at home, courtesy of a bunch of my friends. So they were like, there's this cool thing, you got to try this out, and it was a wonderful experience. But I didn't realize its implications until like much later on. And then after my A levels, I went to the States. I was in Buffalo. I was studying architecture for uh, 2 years. And that was the time where, for the longest time, I lived outside of home. Oh yeah, quick interjection to that is, so I was actually born in the States. Uh, so my mom and dad, they were doing their like PhDs in the 90s, and I was born in Syracuse, New York,
Nice.
and then they moved back to Sri Lanka. So and yeah, then I was born and raised here in Sri Lanka, and then for my university education, I come back to the US, and I'm living alone, and then um, I start to sort of deep dive into psychedelics, and it starts from there. I would say there's a few points that I would say one of the most memorable experiences that truly kind of got me into the entire thing is museum visits. If you are familiar with museum that I would definitely recommend to anybody to visit. That is the Albright Knox Museum in Buffalo. They go as AKG, and they were closed for a while for renovations, and now they are in full force. And so it's like a vivid memory where so how it started was I got my hands on some acid, and it was good. And it was like I was like, wait a minute, if this is acid, what have I been having before? Like I was like, okay, uh, and uh, and it was brilliant. And I was like, okay, this if this is this good, we need to get hands on more. And there was like a small community of psychedelic heads, and it was like I remember like one another international student from like Japan. He was studying like mechanical engineering or something, and there was an art student from Brooklyn, and sort of a few graduate students from like the philosophy department in Buffalo, and they like hooked us up, and it was like, oh, this is like great, and we got like 100 hits of acid, and like we had split it among us, and I just had it in my fridge stored, and it was like it became like a weekend thing. I would just come from class and like, what do I do this weekend? Instead of like cracking open a beer and sitting down, I'd be like, ooh,
Yep.
like pop one. And architecture was super helpful also because I had to get a lot of materials, and the materials were from this art store, and the art store had so much of art materials basically. So I just got a bunch of acrylics, oils, and oil pastels and all that, and I just started to experiment with it. And while I'm doing that, this museum visit, and we all decided to go to the museum, and we went. There's a park next to it, so we went there. We had the that was a blotter, so we had the blotter, and we were waiting around for a good 30 minutes, and we were like, damn, like it's nothing's happening. Maybe we were just like a bunch of college kids who were super excited. I think we were like duped or something.
Right.
So we are like, so we don't have anything to do, so let's go to the museum. Uh, and I walk into the museum, and it's like students discount. We get the tickets, go in, and I'm right at the counter. And this curator lady, she asks, "Have you been to the Albright Knox before?" And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, like I want to say no. Sorry, no, I want to say yes, and I just want to just go and explore on my own. But suddenly, I feel that I'm incapable of lying.
Right.
I'm like, okay, so something's going on here. And I was like, no, I haven't been to the Albright Knox before. And then she pulls out this map, sort of the Albright Knox that has the layout, and it's in this isometric image. And I mean, it's isometric. It's supposed to be like an illusion, but I'm pretty
Right.
sure the structure shouldn't be popping this much out of the paper. I was like, oh, damn. And then immediately, like vividly, what I remember is like she said, "You are here," and I saw like a super well manicured, like red fingernail just coming at me, like whoosh, and I just jumped back. I was like, oh, and then only it hit me. I was like, oh, okay, now it's
Yep.
working. And I just quickly grabbed the map, and I just like started like just dashed on the corridor, and I come to these stairs, and the stairs is I don't remember the artist, but it's like painted like an optical illusion. So when you straight look at it, all you see is like a flat surface, and I'm like, oh damn, it's like only I've just taken like 5 steps, and it hit hard. So I'm like, it's like, you don't mind me if I walk around when I talk, right?
Not at all.
That's
Not at all.
fine. Oh, okay. So I'm just like walking and trying to, gauge my sort of physical body in this space. I'm slowly walking, 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 and I feel like I'm just getting lower and lower, and I feel like there's somebody next to me. When I look at my right side, I see like a family who had come to visit the museum, and they're just looking at me. They're just very casually just walking down the stairs, and they're just staring at me like trying to figure out what's going on. And I'm like, oh, damn. It's just absolutely crazy. And you walk down and you immediately come across, there's a Jackson Pollock painting. Uh, and Clifford Steele, uh, also another artist. So amazing work, and that's when I realized, okay, there's something way, like. I mean, it's all trippy and fun and all that, but there's something really sort of profound, in it.
Yeah.
It's very serious, but super playful at the same time. I mean, something serious. Just because something is serious doesn't mean that it has to be like like very rigid or strict. And it was like everything at once. And I walked around the entire museum space. So that was one of the most profound intros. And to speak to it, first time I saw like a Dali painting was there in like person, and then Franz Klein, I believe, a lot of modern art stuffs. And one of my favorites, I think, has a lot of impact, was a conceptual artist called Sol Levitt. He has had like a really big impact on my artwork and in general thinking as well. And then after that, what happened was, yeah, I'll visit the museum story from time to time, within the entire span of my talk. But yeah, so that was a pivotal experience. It took me like I don't know how much time I spent in the museum, but I came out of the museum. I was like, whoa, that was like too intense. Never again, like never again. And I went to the museum the next week
Yeah.
again on acid. And it was brilliant because the moment I stepped in, I think the curators like knew, and it's like one of the curators came and talked to us, and she was like, yeah, it's like come, like, and she gave like an entire tour of the place, and everything. So the from the art side, that was it. And then along at the same time, I was kind of dabbling around in sort of meditation,
Right.
so to speak, uh, specifically like Vipassana meditation. I had one of my long-term friends who was in Sri Lanka, and he was in Buffalo as well. And since I had like an abundance of acid, what I did was I was kind of like like the advocate for it. I was like, hey man, you have to have
Yeah.
this, like. And I was explaining what's going on, and one of my friends was like, like some of this stuff you are talking about, this is like meditative
Yeah.
level stuff. So I was like, wait, like let's test it out, So I give him a hit of acid, I take a hit of acid, and like we are in the trip, and I was like, how's it going? I'm like this, like taking notes kind of mode, like kind of like this old. There's a video on YouTube where like way back in this black and white video. Have you seen like they're like, okay, now we are is an artist. Like, how do you feel after like half an hour
Yeah.
of in this? So like kind of like that, and that continued as well. And then at the same time, I was drawing, and the apartment I was in, I was with three roommates, and the entire apartment started to like fill with art and everything. And I found myself slowly disengaging with my university coursework, because I had, found something that. I don't know. I had found something that
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but something was there, and it was kind of, I think, in a way, even for me, it was pretty intense. Like getting way out of hand. And I was like sending emails back home to my parents saying, "Look what I'm doing," and they're like, "What's this artwork?" Like, "What about your coursework?" And I'm like, "Oh no," like I couldn't tell them about psychedelics, but I was like, "Yeah, whatever, it's art and all that." And then uh, so one very sort of specific day, like I was having a trip, and I just thought like like, okay, this is it, I have to make a decision. And I thought that I would just pretty much the next day I went to university, gave like a letter, said, okay, that's it, done, I'm done with this. And I came back home to Sri Lanka. And when I came back home, and my parents thought I was like certifiably nuts,
Totally.
Yeah. And they were like, like maybe. you should see somebody, seek some help. I was like, yeah, I mean, you have a point there also, but the reason I came was there's a pilgrimage in Sri Lanka that goes from Jaffna to Kataragama. Yeah, after the podcast and all that, I will definitely share with you these links, and it's with this kind of ancient narrative and Hindu mythology and all that, and it kind of super resonated for me. And it's like, and the pilgrimage itself says, if you are called for this, answer, kind of. So I
Yeah.
felt like really, I have to do this. But when I got here, I was like a bit late, so I couldn't do the pilgrimage. And I was like, "Ah, okay, I don't want to do it halfway through." And then my parents, they said, just go and there's this monk. You should go and meet him. And then I went and had a chat with him, and he's like, maybe the same thing that you're trying to do by walking like few hundred miles, maybe you can do it in one place as well. I was like, okay, that's an interesting thought. Uh,
Yeah.
how do we approach it? And he's like, why don't you stay over? So I stayed at this temple for like 3 months,
Whoa.
and I just dived into my kind of meditative side of things. We had like chats on the psychedelic experience and all that as well. But it was more meditative, and I had my artwork along with me. The initial artwork that I started with, I don't think it's there anymore on any social media or anything. It's drastically sort of different to my digital work. But then I was just dabbling in digital stuff. Basically, like how the digital stuff came along was pretty much I wanted to have cool wallpapers for my
Mhm.
phone and stuff. And I've seen all this really cool stuff. At this time, I've seen like Alex Gray's work and all that. I've
Right.
seen trippy artwork, but like I wouldn't know. Like I'm like, yeah, I know that artwork, but I wouldn't know who Alex Gray is or Geiger is or any of these, like even like Dali and all that. I mean, to a certain extent, but it's just like okay, it's art still.
Yep.
And then I don't know, like it suddenly kind of it uh, it just started to sort of come out, as I was experimenting with the tools and everything, and I was just pretty much blown away by what was like coming out of this whatever it is, like just art, like this crazy stuff that like I'm trying to tell people, and people ask me what it is. Like I'm like, wait, like I mean, if you find out, please tell me because I have no clue idea as to what it is either. It's just there. You know? And then I think along the way it got more sort of formalized, and I started to do my research, and then I started to realize, wait, there's so many people doing this, so many people making super great art, and it's not just a recent thing. It's like lineages of artists,
Yeah.
that you can trace to, and people who have similar experiences and all that. So then I kind of think, okay, now here is where I need to, not just wing it anymore. I need to sort of put my foot down and put some like solid study in. So I start to do my research and all that, and build kind of a solid practice. So this is like, so mind you, this is like 2013. Um, so and it goes on. So I was doing like, and but there's one thing that I was like, I was hell bent on just doing art, so whatever it takes, so I didn't take many like I didn't take any job, so to speak. I was like, that's out, I would try. I mean, I was good in like Photoshop and all that, so I would take like freelance design on the side, but just kind of roughed it out for a whole bunch of years. I think until sort of 2021, which is when sort of I was introduced to the whole digital NFTs blockchain thing. So a great artist who was based in Sri Lanka at the time. He's now again in Sri Lanka, called Outside, Outpsyd. Amazing digital sculpture artist, again like a visionary, and he just dropped me a message and saying, if you are doing this like digital stuff, like you have to look into what blockchain is and NFTs are. So I was like, all right. Like, looked into it, and he just guided me through the process of like making a wallet and everything. And I was like, okay, cool, digital art. And then only I realized, okay, I was doing, and that was one of the things that pushed me to start to do animated pieces also. And then 2021 I minted my like first few pieces, and 2020 late 2021 and 2022 early 2022 I had my like first sale, and that was like amazing. And it's like for like one ETH, when like ETH was like 3,000 ish USD.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait a minute, like now, now I felt like, okay, it's like I was like, first initial was like, now I made it as an artist, but then I was like, oh shit, now the journey starts. It's like and from there I was like, like fully into it, and the technology itself, like blockchain technology itself, it was really kind of, like I was like mind blown. I was like, wait, technology can do this. There is like a, it was beyond, anything that I had experienced in terms of what technology offers. And like the idea of transparency, provenance, and this, like immutability. I think it's like a kind of like a timekeeping,
Yeah.
timekeeping. It's a timekeeping method, like just like, like I like fast forward back to yesterday, I did my first Bitcoin ordinal inscription as well, and that's when I was like guided by this another artist. And from what I realized, I was like, wait, this is like the start of like a technological era, just like we have like BC or AD.
Yeah.
The blockchain is a new way of, this is a timekeeping method, like inherently digital timekeeping method, that is being born from technology. So yeah, I think I went on a bit of a tangent there, but. Yeah, coming back to the whole psychedelic stuff. So, yeah, and since I came back here, I just immersed myself in the whole psychedelic experience, experimenting with mushrooms, LSD, DMT. Of course, marijuana is always there. I think that's I'm like eternally a stoner in a way. So and kind of finding sort of the parallels between the different substances, and also like other practices like meditation and all that, and even and being able to kind of the I think the core experience has always been trying to make sense of it. Integration
Yeah.
has been the biggest thing. Like I think like tripping, is easy. It's not difficult at all. However hectic it can get or whatever it is. I mean, it's just a trip, but trying to sort of integrate what you
Right.
experience and move forward from that is the kind of tricky part. And I found myself over and over again, doing great, and then coming back, I was like, damn, like one step forward, and like
Yeah.
eons back, not a few
Yep.
steps sometimes, and then like it's a very um, enlightening, at the same time very sort of humbling
Yep.
experience, yeah. So trying to navigate that, and the art has been kind of the anchoring point. That is where like I can ground myself to, and yeah, so that's that. And to jump into AI, and it's been phenomenal. Like I was like, where has this been? Like all this time. I just didn't realize. Like it completely changed the sort of perception of a lot of things, and a lot of the. I would say so that's one of the most interesting things is that vivid psychedelic experiences that I've had, and in kind of encountering some kind of sense of intelligence, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
not to say of like encountering. like a physical being or something like that, but
Right.
that sense of encountering intelligence. And the same, felt like the same with interacting with AI and the art making tools. And I feel like uh, just diving deep into it and going through that, and I just kind of, the feeling is like, oh, wait, you are also here, like. Like kind of like that. It's like it's
Yeah.
like meeting an old friend, like it's
Yep.
that kind of feeling. So putting all uh, that together, and yeah, it's been great. It's been great, and yeah. So that's
It is.
to so,
It's it blows my mind to
so
get to hear the story of how it all began, like going to the museums, leaving Buffalo, coming back and telling your family members, like, hey, I'm not going to do this studies anymore. I'm going to do this thing now. Like, that
yeah,
takes a lot of
yeah,
courage to do on some levels. But I don't think you can express yourself in a way that's fully you unless you have the courage to embrace this feeling and this presence of like, I want to do this other thing instead. Like, it,
yeah,
it's it's really difficult, I think, to for a lot of people to stop living the life they're living and live the life that they want to live. Like, that's a hard
yeah.
thing to do, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a step. I think in a way, yes, that's like a this one step. But at the same time, I feel like the more I, like keep at it, I feel like
Yeah.
it's. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I believe like that art is something truly great, and this journey is I
Yep.
feel blessed. But at the same time, after a few years of doing that, I'm
Yeah.
like, damn, this is like the same thing, I mean, it's like, guess what? It's like not a 9 to 5 anymore, but this is like a 24/7 thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, but I think like there is a certain sense of, yes, definitely. I mean, to take that step, you need like a sense of courage and all that. And for me, I don't think it's personally, like it wouldn't have happened for me if not for the psychedelic experience. I
Yeah.
mean, perhaps it's not the only way as such, but and that's when I sort of decided, okay, like art, and that's where I'm going to sort of focus my attention towards. So it
Yeah.
took me a while, and then I kind of like, okay, what do I call myself? Artist, what, and all that. And then I was like, okay, psychedelic artist. But then I came across the visionary schools as well. So then I was like, wait, some of the work that I'm creating is this. And also, so I'm like, okay, psychedelic visionary artist. That's my label, so
Yeah.
to speak, like, and I think I kind of hit the spot with finding like a good label, like,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, yeah.
It's interesting to
So yeah, so
think
definitely.
about. It's a There was a piece where you spoke about the intelligence that you encounter on psychedelics and the intelligence that you encounter in AI. Like, they really are pretty similar on some levels. It's like a
Yeah,
way
yeah,
to
yeah.
see your higher self and yourself in a third person all at the same time. Like,
That's
it is
right.
like this
Yeah,
evolution of consciousness. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about
yeah,
that.
yeah, 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 definitely. So there's this one piece that I call it's called the AGI Muse, I believe. It's called the AGI as an artificial general intelligence and Muse. So the whole idea is that there is just like like we talk about the muse as artists, right? Like, and uh, we are so, I think, comfortable in talking about the muse when it comes to traditional mediums and all that. But when it comes to that, I think partially comes from this whole AI argument, like AI art is not art, or like whatever, that it's you did it, or like the computer did it,
Yeah.
like kind of thing. And it really kind of hit home for me there. And when I kind of was in this process, like, and I come across this kind of uh, endless sort of source of inspiration. For me, that's
Yeah.
what the muse is. An endless, inexhaustible source of inspiration.
Yes.
And that is was in the presence of a computer program, right? And for me, that doesn't it didn't kind of diminish the value of it or
Yeah.
anything. In fact, I mean, the whole idea is like, wait, if the truth or whatever this notion of the sublime is omnipresent and everywhere, why shouldn't it exist in the ones and the zeros? Why shouldn't it exist
Yeah.
in the digital?
Yeah.
It should be, if it's everywhere, then it should be everywhere. So, and it's like the same kind of thing, I think, like, and for me, that was like revolutionary. And when I encountered that, I was like, okay, I had to make like art about that. So doubling back onto how that artwork was made. I did a series called the Chakradelic series. So those were like seven art pieces, one for each of the chakras, right? So I guess it's very cliche also, psychedelic artist, visionary artist, you got to have a series about the chakras. You're taking some of this, ancient Hindu mythology and all that into account. So I made this series, and then I did like I put all the sort of chakras together in like strips. This piece called Biomechanical Enlightenment, and so I created that piece, and it just turned out, like I was like, whoa, wait, what's this? That turned out, and from that, it kind of triggered a kind of series of, I would say, unlocked or whatever creative pathways that I had to kind of explore. And through that, I was just continuously sort of encountering this uh, inspiration. Uh, uh, of art about myself also, but I think by this time, like, I was kind of, even now I'm sort of convinced uh, that, and what I'm exploring and experiencing is not necessarily sort of like a reality or a reflection of myself, so to speak. Like, this is, I mean, the world is much bigger than we ever imagined, like,
Right.
so these are sort of spaces through the psychedelic experience, through AI, through meditation, and we can frequently visit. So these are not hallucinations.
Right.
These are kind of realities that exist, and we can sort of parallelly kind of walk through and experience it. So that's the way. So I think that's where I am right now, is that, that seeing the kind of bigger picture, and kind of you know trying to not necessarily place myself in it, but just
Right.
like explore it, like, and I'm a big fan of Terence McKenna and all that. So I
Yeah.
think that I still feel like sometimes, even when I'm tripping, I kind of have like a voice in my head, like I can hear Terence telling me to do something, or for sure, so the role that I've taken as an artist, I think, is very much defined by that, as of the explorer. So sometimes it is not, might not be in the best interest of my own well-being, so to speak. And I truly believe that as well. I feel like psychedelics, mushrooms, MDMA, all these substances have great potential in wellness and therapy, but the whole point of it is not just to get well, like, I feel like there's something more beyond. I mean, it's like the substances, or the the methods that unlock and allow you to walk into another dimension. I don't think it should be uh, just parceled and given as something. Oh no, this is
Yeah.
something that's going to heal your trauma and go back to work the next day. Like, I feel like there's much greater potential in these things. So, like, yeah. Yeah, sorry there. Like I have a bit of a bone to pick with the whole wellness industry and how it handles psychedelics. I feel like no. I mean, it's great that you can heal your trauma. Uh, see oneself. Discover yourself. See the true yourself. But that is like the minimum that it can do.
Right,
That is like
right.
and there's
The
so
base
much
level.
more to. Yeah, that's like the base level. So like I'm like wait, it's like I've been given like the key to unlock the universe, and I'm like using that key to do like a scratch pad drawing.
Yeah.
I haven't even found the door yet.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
so yeah, yeah. So all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah.
I love it. I love
I
the
hope
way you
I
explained
answered.
it
Yeah,
too.
answered
Yeah,
or yeah,
totally.
yeah.
I love the way you
Good.
explained it too. And like for me, it almost goes full circle back to the first part of the story where you're exploring this museum on acid, but then later in life, you use the acid or the psychedelics or the mushrooms to explore this universal museum that's all around us at all times. And you can really get in touch with the paintings. You can really get in touch with the intelligence that's around us. It's it's just a wonderful way to look at it on some level.
Yeah, yeah,
It's when I think too of the like the what you can learn. I think that the medical container that psychedelics finds itself in is such a base level as well. Like there's so much out
yeah,
there that you can begin to explore. And it's almost like whether it's Terrence McKenna yelling in your ear or whether it's a vision you see or a vision you experience, I feel like the world is trying to talk to us and we're just now learning how to communicate with it. It's these altered states that kind of allow
yeah.
us to channel that stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that's where I think something that's very personally like amazing experiences. There's so many sort of meeting so many artists from the
Yeah.
NFT space
Yep.
who are in the sort of same wavelength and
Yep.
the psychedelic experience, the visionary art experience, and uh, being able to kind of I mean, that's the most of our conversations are about that. It's sort of like the visionary experience, the
Yeah.
experience, and the art we share. I feel like it's not like we have to sit down and explain the artwork to each other, but like we see the work and we resonate with it, and we have a mutual sort of understanding with it, and that's the sort of you know. I feel like that's the most powerful base level conversation for being human or whatever, like even like with there's a lot of my friends that I do psychedelics with that I don't see eye to eye on maybe some of the socio-political issues
Right.
that's there, but we
Right.
can very well agree what's happening some or of what's out there. Like it blows my mind. Like I mean I would be like like, what the heck are you talking about? This is not how it should be done. Like we can have like we fight. We fight in this sort of three-dimensional world,
Yeah.
but we have nothing to kind of disagree on the kind of psychedelic experience and the places we go. So I think like altered states of consciousness. I think it has that potential to show us that like
Yeah.
where maybe that's where we have to begin. Maybe that's where like we can truly find common ground. Like because once you
Yep.
get there, that's there, and like that's I mean it is as real or probably more real than what we experience
Yep.
outside. So I think that's where I think like for me like yeah in terms of altered states, whether it is psychedelic induced or meditative experience induced, like either way, that's where I think that's where the easiest path to common ground, so to speak, like where we can kind of all agree on something. I think that's where we would find that space is there, I think.
Yeah. What Nuwan, what does your process look like? Like when you're gonna start working on a piece, is it like you research first? Do you take some psychedelic and think about it? Like what is the process for you when you start creating art?
Yeah. So there's quite a bit of work that I've started with photographs.
Okay.
So I start with a photograph. I just put it on Photoshop. I mirror it. I just start to generate patterns out of it, and then as I progress with it, I start to see shapes. I start to see, just structures emerge out of it, or just whatever. It's about, I would say about a good 90% of it like completely like intuitive. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Very rarely I sit down and say I'm going to do an artwork.
Yeah,
So it
exactly.
just like it just happens, and I have like a massive archive of work. So it's like one piece I might just work on it for like few days or even like a few minutes, and it's done, and it just sits there for another 2 years, and just I just go through the computer and it's like, oh, okay, I found it, and like
Yeah.
I work on it again. So it's fairly intuitive, but most of the time it either starts from a photograph, and it can be photographs in the sense the most ridiculous of things. Sometimes I just like I'm just bored, so I just go through the like photos that's on my phone, and I find like an interesting rock, part of a rock that's on the corner of a photograph that like it's very badly taken, and it's like this like the worst photograph that you can ever take. It's not, and that becomes like the base for this amazing thing that comes up. Very, very, I would say like concept of pareidolia, pareidolia, I believe, right? Like
Mm.
when you look at the sky or whatever, trees, clouds, you see shapes,
Right. Right.
or and you just start to extrapolate, like you make them more clearer and clearer and clearer. So that's why I think for me personally, I think I resonate quite a bit with the AI generated process is
Yep.
also that it's like it's like iterative. So you start with like a noise field kind of thing, and then you start to sort of bring out shapes. So similar pattern. Even outside of the AI, that's the process. So it's a iterative process. Uh, even the sort of techniques that I use are just born out of that, like like just experimenting on Photoshop, and later on, kind of looking back, now I can see like, okay, now there's like these sort of art principles that are going on, like symmetry and
Hmm.
like depth and all that. But
Yep.
when I sort of entered it, it was not a kind of conscious decision to, so like it's not like I learned something and then applied it. I've just been like, I was like, okay, I was like, visual. I think it's just guided by that. You can kind of see when something looks good, right? Like,
Yeah,
so
of course.
that's like the yeah. Just jumping back into like a McKenna's one of Terence McKenna's quotes from one of his talks. The um, I think he quotes McKenna. Yeah, that goes a long way. Like McKenna quoting Plato or something, So something he says, when we're trying to discern what reality is, he thinks like, what's the good, the true, and the beautiful.
Yeah.
I believe, and he says like, what is good, and it's very tricky to figure out what's good. Um, it's very tricky, and what is true, it is very difficult to figure out what is true. But what is beautiful? That's not that difficult. You can see it. When you see it, you know it. And to quote McKenna again, he says, it's like, well, if you have bad taste, you are doomed forever. So something like that. That sort of the approach and to it is fairly intuitive. Like guided by and like I mean I still use like I'm sometimes I use like ratios and this whole, I mean, even the golden ratio thing, like I mean I love it, but at the same time I'm just like, I just realize there's nothing I can do which is going to be outside of this thing in the first place. So it doesn't really matter for me to like I
That's
mean, I
brilliant.
try. I love to sort of contradict myself, and I think that's where I derive a lot of uh, kind of happiness from, so to speak. Being able to contradict myself, and growth comes from there. Yeah, like I'm an absolute hypocrite in that sense, but I think I mean, it's been working out for me so far. So let's see.
I love it. There's so many brilliant parts to that. I always get so excited to hear about someone's creative process and the way they see things and the way they create things. It's what kind of you said you use Photoshop. Like do you use like Unreal Engine, or what are the kind of programs do you use to kind of finesse things?
Photoshop and stable for AI stable diffusion.
Nice.
And shout out to uh, Elo. Elo projects. He's on Twitter. Um, Elo and Jeremy Torman, for creating a
Yeah.
amazing AI model called ETV. ETV, and this like the latest iteration is ETV 8, and that just truly unlocked an incredible. Like I was using this bunch of. I mean, there's still lot of great models, but this was like something else. Like a true like a it's like a visionary engine kind of like, and that's been my like go-to model. Most of my work has been kind of processed through that, and yeah, great community once more. That's where we were kind of
Yes.
experimenting, like in and out on Discord. Oh yeah, so taking the time to do another shout out to some great artists on the digital and NFT art space. Ghidra Blick, Ferociously Amused, uh, Natural Warp, uh, Jeff Drawbot, Shazgo. There's an amazing community of artists. I probably missed like a bunch of names, but so that's been something. It almost, and there was times that when we used to spend quite a bit of time on Discord, like working together,
Yeah.
just each of us working on our own work, and then kind of collective kind of learning. And I feel like that has been extended out. So yeah, when somebody learns something, uh, we kind of learn it too. Like I don't have
Yeah.
to kind of learn it from scratch again. One of not McKenna, Rupert Sheldrake, I think. Rupert
Right.
Sheldrake, or with the
Yep.
morphogenetic, the idea
Morphic
of this whole
resonance. Yep.
morphic resonance. So like, so if I do some cool art thing and I discover something, I feel like that's been sort of not just me, like that knowledge is shared among like a field and like another bunch of artists. So anyone who has access to it, or that kind of intuition, like intuition is not like a personal thing. It's like a like a field, so to speak. So I think yeah. So, process is that, and Photoshop, stable diffusion, and for animations I use like After Effects,
Mm.
and 3D has been bit overwhelming for me. I've dabbled around in a bit, but I haven't still been able to get my hands across that, because it's like I can barely kind of keep it together in the with the
Yeah.
2D, like
I hear you. Yeah.
yeah, Ghidra does some incredible like 3D work, and it just it's just like like I just look at some of some like great 3D work, and I'm like, okay, like okay. And Lane, Lane, he's on Twitter. He has some incredible 3D work. I just look at it, I'm like, okay, this
Yeah.
maybe it's time for me to just stop doing this, and I'm just going to go watch some TV for some sanity. So it's like that, but definitely 3D is something that I'm looking into, and collaborations. That's something that
Yeah.
I've been working on, and tools. I think the tools are pretty much out there now, and it's accessible to pretty much anyone. And
Yeah.
even here in Sri Lanka, some of my close friends and artists that I've been like working with for a while, they some of them adapted like AI like incredibly fast. Like who have not been sort of artists or anything. They've been like uh, people who've been writers who
Yeah.
have
Yep.
adapted like AI because they have the
The prompt.
know-how of the language.
Yep.
Yeah, the
Yep.
prompt, and they've been like, I'm like, how the hell did you do this? Like, it's like, it's just like, what do you mean? It's like, they're like, yeah, I'm like, like, they can't, I mean, they still can't draw for shit, but for somehow, like, picking up like a, like, still be like drawing stick figures, but with AI, they just are like masters, like,
Yeah.
so it's tools. Tools are brilliant, and I think there's something just to like double back on that. In a recent conversation with another one of my friends, and it was we had did like a small exhibition here in Sri Lanka some time back. A few like an artist collective, and I had some of my work and this whole AI art. What about it? Like, do you think like how much of it is the computer, how much of it is you, like
Yeah.
kind of thing came up, and then I was trying on the fly, I was trying to figure out what to say about that. And I feel like there's the best example I could come up with. Let's say if you have a piece of charcoal and you are drawing with the piece of charcoal, and over the years or the time you spent with the material, you find there is some kind of uh, um, intuitive kind of there's something that the charcoal says back to you, kind of, there's
Yeah.
a sort of
Yep.
material intelligence
Yes.
that
I
that
love that.
you can listen to, uh, so similarly I think in there is so kind of like there's something inherent thing with all materials. So that's, I think that's where we like the more you use it, I think that is why when we say we are kind of gaining experience or expertise, is not just us, but it is that sort of material speaking back. I think
Yeah.
there is something like that within the computers and the digital tools as well. So there's a inherent intelligence within the material itself. So the tools we use are not just inanimate things. It's just we haven't spent enough time with them or something like that. So I feel like really, like that's where, like even with the AI stuffs, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to spend more time with it, like,
Yeah.
and that's where it comes from. I guess, so in a sense, like just like people or anything else, it's time. It's a matter of time, when it comes to art and the expression, I think it's definitely something beyond, like, or beyond, or it's more than uh, us or me or anything like that. Yes. Like the same relationship that I have with my creative tool, I feel like something is having with me when I'm working on the
Yeah.
artwork.
Yeah. I
So
love it.
so so it's like a, yeah. So that's that, and yeah. So I'm just trying to like move through that, and at the same time, ding 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 ding, you got to pay your bills, like,
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
and find a way to do that as well, and find a way to sort of channel that into, like. Recently, I had like a trip, and I was like, wait a minute, all this, like you do like a good dose of acid, and you kind of like, like, wow, like this dimension, that dimension, and all that stuff. This trip, I was like, no, I'm going to trip on acid, and I'm going to
Ah.
work on my finances. I'm trying to get my life together. I mean, what's this? All this time I'm doing mushrooms, mushrooms have never told me about how I should, like get my, like mundane life together.
Right,
Like,
right,
okay, I'm done with, okay, just let's pause the unlocking the mysteries of the universe and for a bit. What can you tell me about the, like next month's phone bill, like
right,
what
right.
do I do, guide me there. So, and it's been great, and it's kind of like, like again, it's that, like bringing that playfulness and kind of like that fun element into the whole experience, and uh, it's like super serious, but at the same time, it doesn't mean it has to be, like not fun, like, and then I think that's why I like side story again, but like I've seen some of these like Buddha images, that has like a slight grin on the mouth.
Right.
And I'm like, what's this been all about, so it's kind of like that. So then some of the stories that I've been told is like it's like I think at the moment of enlightenment also there's like a grin, kind of, like a realization, but it's like it looks like it's like realization of ultimate truth is like, damn it, it was this all this time, like it was like it has that, I mean, like yeah, that if there's one thing for sure that I can guarantee in all my kind of trips and psychedelic experiences is that the universe truly does have a sense of humor. Truly does have a good
Yeah.
sense of humor.
Yes.
So, yeah. So,
It's I'm blown away by so much of just learning how to use the tools, seeing them. But what you spoke when you spoke on community, like I have only begun to stumble upon some of the great artists in the NFT community on X. I, I think it's like the next salon. Like the most, in my opinion, the most creative artists that are really pushing the edge are on that NFT community. Like there are so many talented people that are putting out
yeah,
so much
yeah,
incredible work, and they're all working together and they're willing to share and like inviting people in to help. Like it's such a stellar community.
yeah, yeah. Most definitely. I think that's been one of the strongest points for me being in Sri Lanka. Uh, for a long time since I came back, pretty much from like 2012 onwards. I mean, whatever interactions that I've had with the art community, but it's always been like, like it's very less. I don't have an affinity group of artists with the whole very similar interests and all that here. And that's where, I mean, through NFTs and blockchain and
Yep.
X and Discord, that's where I found my community. So truly, I truly felt what what exactly the kind of internet and this whole networking thing has in store. Like, so it kind of really gave me hope and
Yeah.
pulled me kind of out of that. I was like, okay, now I'm not like I don't. I was like, what is this? Where is the art people who are doing all this artwork? I was like, oh shit, they are there. I no longer even it's no longer even a concern. Like so. Truly, yeah, cutting edge. Yeah, I think like almost it's like kind of being at the fringes.
Yeah.
And we are always like pushing like uh, uh, pushing outwards. Yeah, yeah, like it's like the eternal fringe, so to speak. And like because you wouldn't want to get comfortable in the same place, and then like moment you like find something great and it works, you would want to stay there for a little bit, experience it, but then you just move forward again,
Yeah.
like so that amount of kind of innovation and passion and being able to sort of connect with the community of people who are uh, that sharing that is has been through the internet, through NFTs, blockchain space. Yeah. I'm pretty sure there is like I mean, it's probably like in same community when it comes to like physical artwork and all that
Yeah.
also. But
Sure.
for me, being in Sri Lanka, I mean, I don't uh, have that opportunity and all that. So for me, to access that, I mean, it's a technological solution that I've been able to come to terms with. So I think, yeah, I mean, I mean, the word community gets thrown around a lot in Twitter and all that, but there is, once you kind of see past all that, there is like a very strong sense of community and how that goes on. Yeah. I mean, guess what? I mean,
Yeah.
that speaks
What
to
do you
itself because
Nuwan, what do you
this
think is the
meeting,
diff
yeah, our meeting and this podcast
right?
is a result of that itself, right? Yeah. So, yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I'm
Yeah.
just curious to get your thoughts on what do you think, or in your opinion, what is the difference between like LSD, acid, or like say mushrooms? Do you have an affinity for one, or do you feel like you learn different things on one, or are they slightly different
Um,
states, or what do you think?
I think they are quite. They have similarities for sure in
Right.
the experience itself. But let's say, I mean, LSD, acid. I mean, I would say, and acid is the. I mean, I have an affinity for acid. I really like LSD.
Right.
And mushrooms. I mean, not to say that I don't like the other ones, but like if I had to pick, I would
Right.
always go for the acid. I think it's kind of personal preference, maybe. And DMT. It's the kind of holy grail of things. I mean, I've just had like 2 trips so far, but I think I mean, that's the thing. Since these are like kind of substances that are still illegal, and there's so much of difficulty in getting hands on them,
Yeah.
so I haven't been able to. But otherwise, yeah, I think there are differences, but also quite a bit of similarities also. But yeah, so I would say, uh, yeah, like top. Well, yeah, for me, it's always going to be like acid because I've been able to do a lot of like that's where I have my most experience in
Right.
working with. The other ones, not so much, but uh, I would say MDMA is also something that I
Right.
really enjoy. That has like really incredible potential. I mean, I would not know to talk about its sort of physiological implications or anything. I'm
Right.
definitely not qualified to do that to any of these things, but on a experiential level, I would say, yeah, I mean, they have similarities even among the like say visual experiences. A good way to actually approach this, if you are familiar with the QRI, Qualia Research Institute by Emil on X, please check it out. QRI,
Yeah.
incredible. So they are working on, like part of the thing is about these psychedelic experiences is that they are so profound and all the time, but we don't have the language to talk about it, right? So you
Right.
ask someone how was the trip, and they're like, man, it was like, uh, you, like it's like whoa, it was great, It's like what for like 17 hours of your trip? That's all you have to say, like oh no, it's like oh, okay, yeah, it's like what do we say, like so to be able to. Kind of recognize the visuals, the
Yeah.
trailing patterns, and say like, okay, I experienced the trailing. So that is one level of visuals. When you experience like a closed eye visuals of like a kaleidoscope, you have a terminology for it. So then you kind of are able to talk to someone and say like, okay, like I was doing this, and then in this point in time I had this experience. So kind of like
Right.
building that language that where
Yes.
we can kind of just kind of little bit past that stage of just being astonished by it and
right.
wordless, like because it's difficult to talk about, but how else are we going to talk about it, like without language? So building that vocabulary, and I think what the like through psychedelic art and what all of us artists are doing is building that kind of vocabulary. You know, I think yeah, kudos to Alex Gray for kind of
Yes.
uh, like just building that kind of framework for being able to kind of like like a guide almost
Yeah.
to be able to kind of look through. Yeah, yeah. So
It's
that's
it's such a brilliant point. It does when I hear you explain it and coming off my own experiences, like the geometrical images you see, the visions you see, it sort of is like an alien language trying to teach us how to speak, how to
yeah,
communicate. And if you
yeah,
look at the like while language is our best asset and it really helps us communicate in the world, I really feel like we're only beginning to speak. Like we've only learned like adjectives. We haven't even learned
yeah,
how to put sentences together yet. And the psychedelic experience
yeah,
is
yeah,
teaching us like, okay, you guys have mastered the adjective. Now we're gonna put a noun in here and it's gonna come together
yeah,
and
yeah,
you're gonna
yeah.
learn to speak.
Yeah, yeah, it's yeah, definitely, yes, most definitely, yeah.
It's so
Awesome.
it's unbelievable to me, like to just to see where we're at and to see the artwork that's coming out of all the communities and to see all the people out there. And I gotta say, Nuwan, I I put all the links to your work in the show notes, and I would encourage everybody within the sound of my voice to go down and click on it to reach out to you because I think that the work you're putting out there, for me, it's mind blowing. I love to experience it, and I want to say
Truly
thank you for
honored.
that, for creating that, and
Truly
I'm
honored.
looking.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing, and shout out to the entire NFT community out there
Oh
that's
yeah,
doing the same
most
thing,
definitely.
man. They're doing great, incredible
Yeah.
work, and but as we're coming up on this hour right here, Nuwan, I just want to give you an opportunity to first off, I want to say thank you and tell you and give you an opportunity. Where can people find you? What do you have coming up, and what are you excited about?
Oh, yeah. So most of my work is on my website, nuwanshilpa.com. And if anyone wants to reach out, they can sort of directly reach out through my email or on X. I'm pretty much every day. Yeah, I think I'm addicted to Twitter, but I think this is one of those, like healthy.
Right?
Whoever said that social media was bad has never, truly experienced it. I think, kind of like that. So I'm always open to conversation and, conversation, collaboration, all sorts. Easiest to reach is through my email or Twitter. My work is on my website. I'm actually working on trying to work a bit on trying to get my work into like physical stuff. So large scale prints and all that at the moment. So hopefully soon. So that's part of my like long term plan. I was like, yeah, now I felt like okay, now I'm getting somewhere. Now I need to kind of pick it up a notch and like get into the whole merch thing and all that.
Yeah.
So that will be happening soon. But yeah, through X and my email and through the website would be the best way to get in touch. And I'm always like welcome conversation at any time. So yes.
I love it. Okay, well, Nuwan, hang on briefly afterwards, but to everybody else within the sound of my voice, I hope you have a beautiful day. I hope you go and you check out all of Nuwan's work. I hope you decide to kind of turn your head towards the world of artistic movement. And I think that the world will open up in front of you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we got for today. I hope you have a beautiful day. Aloha.
All right, wonderful. Thank you for you.